Let's face it, we've all got little food quirks. Me, I keep a pack of deli ham in my car at all times. But we're not the only creatures with questionable eating habits. Some animals have been discovered with mysterious, shocking, and downright strange objects inside their bowels. And some of them, like sperm whales, have had treasures hidden inside them their whole lives. Huh? If you want answers, keep your eyes peeled and, noses pegged as we take a look at the weirdest things ever found inside animals, and how one sperm whale made an entire village stinking rich. Whale of a find. There's no greater smell in life than that fresh sea air. Ugh, ugh. Was that you? Ew, it smells like something died. You need to eat more fiber. Still, your stinky soilings can't be anywhere near as bad as what a group of Yemeni fishermen had to deal with back in 2021. They got an anonymous tip-off about a dead sperm whale floating in the Gulf of Aden and figured this might be their chance to win big. As they got near the bloated, bobbing blubber knot, though, the smell became increasingly horrific. See, when whales die and their bodies begin to break down, they produce a huge amount of funky-smelling gas. So much so that sometimes their tongues can turn inside out like this. But the fishermen persevered, and it was worth it, because inside the whale was a whopping 280 pounds of ambergris. Amber what now? Ambergris, known poetically as vomit gold, is a waxy secretion that forms inside sperm whales' intestines over many years. It's used a lot in expensive perfumes to preserve the aroma. Yep, some rich folks literally saunter around smelling like dead whale goop. Gross. But the good news for the fishermen was this gunky residue is incredibly rare and highly valuable. Their haul was worth a staggering $1.4 million. Holy guacamole! They're rich. But they're also good people. They shared the money equally, which enabled many of them to buy homes, get married, and lift themselves out of poverty. Way to go, guys. See, 80% of Yemenis live in hunger following years of civil war and political unrest. So whatever extra money these fishermen could spare, they gave to other villagers. Just one catch managed to change the lives of an entire town. Now that's a frickin' awesome story. Okay, hold up. If this whale digestive putty is worth so much, what are we doing? Let's go! Well, wait just a second. Part of the reason ambergris is so valuable is because it's illegal to harvest in many countries. To get it, the whale has to be, an ex-whale, which poses some big conservation concerns. But some countries find loopholes, like Japan, who hunt whales for scientific research, another way of saying for fun. Now, nearly half of all whale species are endangered or even at risk of extinction. But that's what makes the story of the Yemeni fishermen so great. The whale was already dead, so no unnecessary harm was brought upon the innocent. Neato. However, hunting isn't the only thing having severe effects on whale populations. In 2018, a young sperm whale washed up on a beach in southern Spain, and scientists noticed it looked unusually thin. When they opened it up, they discovered a devastating 64 pounds of plastic, ropes, pieces of net, and all sorts of other junk stuck in its stomach. All of this sea trash caused the whale to contract peritonitis, a nasty abdominal infection that proved fatal. Poor Willie. Now, I don't think the same thing happened to the whale in Yemen, but I also don't know for sure. On the one hand, I'm happy for the fishermen and their fellow villagers who had their lives improved, but it'd take a fool not to acknowledge the damage being done to our oceans. Can we not have one without the other? It's tricky. I'm gonna need you to help me out and share your thoughts down in the comments. Jonah? I hardly know her. Like most people, the deep ocean gives me the willies. I don't want to get swallowed up by some big evil sea monster. And I'm not being irrational. It nearly happened to lobster diver Michael Packard. He was off the coast of Provincetown, Massachusetts doing his thing when next thing he knows, he's been gulped up by a humpback whale. What? Yep, Michael got Jonah'd, but unbelievably, he was okay. The whale resurfaced and burped/barfed him out again. Once Michael was free, his crewmates nearby pulled him back to safety, and apart from a dislocated knee, he was tip-top. The whole encounter lasted about 30 seconds, but it probably felt more like a lifetime to Michael. But Michael might not have had the wildest whale encounter. When Julie McSorley and Liz Cotrio were enjoying a nice relaxing kayak off of Vila Beach in California minding their own business, they suddenly realized the water surface was starting to ripple with thousands of fish. It was a bait ball, which is when fish rush to the surface to try and escape. Dun dun dun! A predator. Before Julie or Liz could react, a humpback whale came crashing upwards and nearly swallowed them both. Incredibly, neither of them was injured, though they were understandably a little rattled. Now, whilst you might be sitting there thinking, gee, thanks be amazed, new fear unlocked, the chances of you getting Moby Dicked are slim to none. And if, and that's a big if, you did end up in a humpback's mouth, there's zero chance it could actually swallow you. See, even though their mouths are 10 feet long, their throats are only a measly 15 inches wide. That's like if our throats were ever so slightly wider than a fingernail. Yoinks. Now that's something I find hard to swallow. If you're looking for something that goes down a little easier, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons? I've got some seriously great videos in the works that you don't want to miss out on. Great, let's get back to the video. A tough chew. Nowadays, there's all sorts of swimming attire. You've got one pieces, board shorts, mankinis. Me? I'm a Speedo guy. This is a body built for speed. However, according to 16th century French naturalist Guillaume Rondelet, he found a rather unusual swimsuit in the stomach of a great white shark. It was an entire suit of armor, with the knight still inside. Huh? Now, this has never been officially confirmed, but Rondelet was highly regarded in his day, and it's a darn weird thing to make up. According to Rondelet, the shark could have mistaken the suit of armor for a tasty-looking seal and gobbled it up. Sounds plausible, but what's a Renaissance knight doing taking a swim in a 55-pound pair of trunks? Maybe the whole noble knight was a traitor ousted from his ship? We've all heard of the Round Table, but this might be why the Drowned Table never took off. This guy sinks. Mummy Matryoshka. Museums can be boring. Why would I want to walk around looking at a bunch of dusty old stuff? Well, there's one exhibit at the National Museum of Antiquities in Leiden, the Netherlands, which definitely warranted a closer look. In a step to make their exhibits more interactive, they sent a 10-foot mummified crocodile that had been on display since 1828 off to be scanned. The idea was to produce 3D models of its insides so guests could perform a virtual autopsy. Cool, but what they discovered was truly shocking. The croc had an additional 47 mummified baby crocodiles stuffed inside. Whoa, it's like a giant crocodile Matryoshka doll. A Matryoshka, if you will. Anyways, what's the dealio with this Turkraken? Is it a cannibal? After all, some huge crocs do eat smaller ones, but 47 of them? If it had eaten all of those, it'd be as thick as this monster. Sheesh. Supposedly, this chunker is 125 years old. I don't know if that's true, but they've definitely had their fair share of big dinners. Luckily, those dinners probably weren't hordes of baby crocodiles, and our old mummified pal didn't eat a load of crocs either. He was a goner long before they were stuffed inside him. See, he hails from Egypt some 2,500 years ago. In ancient Egypt, crocodiles were offered as gifts to Sobek, the god of the Nile, who was depicted as having a man's body and a crocodile's head. In order to honor him the best way they could, Egyptians would sometimes mummify more than one animal and bundle up all their sacrifices in a tidy package. If anyone tried to honor me with 47 child sacrifices stuffed inside something that looked like me, I wouldn't want to be friends with them anymore. Phone fish. Dropping your phone has to be one of the most anxiety-inducing moments. Is it broken? Oh, is it fine? The truth is, phones just aren't built like they used to be. And no one knows this quite like British businessman Andrew Cheadle. He'd been playing with his dog by the beach and didn't notice his old school Nokia 1600 fall into the ocean and get carried off by the tide. Aw, bummer. After spending a few days calling it from his girlfriend's phone, hoping someone might have stumbled across it, Andrew knew he was beat and went to buy a replacement. But while he was out shopping for a new one, the unthinkable happened. Andrew's girlfriend's phone started ringing from his number. Huh? On the other end of the phone, a fisherman called Glenn Curley had just landed a respectable 25-pound cod. But when he'd cracked open his catch of the day, he found something he didn't expect. A soaking wet Nokia 1600. The phone itself was in bad shape, but Glenn had popped the SIM card into his own phone to see if he could contact the original owner. How crazy. An entire week after he'd lost his phone, someone had managed to find it. Now, it wasn't all great news. Miraculously, the phone did work, but it was in ropey condition and smelled like the inside of a fish. Yuck. A good clean and a new circuit board later, though, and that bad boy was up and running again. Woohoo! Ain't no way my iPhone's doing that. If I held that thing anywhere near water, it would have a meltdown. Explode squid. After a bad experience with some dodgy shrimp, me and seafood aren't exactly friends. Ugh. A fishmonger in China discovered some very dodgy fish that would have caused far more havoc on his insides than that shrimp though. While preparing a freshly caught squid, he found an 8-inch long live bomb inside it. Zoinks! A live bomb in a busy market? That could have been devastating. However, the fishmonger immediately called the police, who came to remove the explosive and carry out a controlled detonation somewhere safe. Phew. Even so, I'm a little confused. Squid normally live relatively close to the shore and only eat small fish and shrimp. Sure, it's feasible that one day it was swimming along and saw a 3-pound explosive. I just think it's unlikely for this clever creature to mistake it for food. So, how'd it end up there? Could it be a rogue fisherman with a vendetta? Seems pretty reckless to me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Turtle Bank. In life, a little bit of luck goes a long way. I've worn the same pair of lucky socks every day for the last 3 years. Look at me now. However, one poor little turtle in Thailand found itself on the wrong side of fortune. It lived in a pond where tourists would often throw in small coins hoping for good luck. This turtle would see a penny, pick it up, but its days weren't filled with luck. If anything, they were numbered. It consumed so many coins that the weight of all that money broke its shell. That's devastating. After undergoing surgery to fix it, over 1,000 coins were removed from the turtle's stomach. Yikes. That's a lot of cash, and while surgeons did manage to fix the shell, the nickel in the coins was too toxic for the turtle's digestive system to manage. Sadly, it contracted an infection which stopped its intestines from working. Poor thing. So next time you're hoping to score lucky with your hard-earned dollar, spare a thought for the innocent creatures who might live nearby. Feathered forager. Do you know what gives me the heebie-jeebies? Birds. I don't trust any feathered freak who'll eat from a trash can. However, in 1930, zookeepers in London, England discovered one of their ostriches had a somewhat unusual palate. See, despite in the wild their diet mostly consisting of plants and small animals, this ostrich had been grazing on 3 cotton gloves, 3 handkerchiefs, a bit of pencil for half-pennies, 1 franc, 1 farthing, part of a bicycle valve, a piece of wood, 6 feet of string, an alarm clock key, several pieces of metal, and a 4-inch nail which had led to its untimely passing. Yikes. Sounds like Thanksgiving at my mother-in-law's. Most of these items had probably been dropped into the bird's enclosure by zoogoers, but why it scoffed them down is a bit of a mystery. One theory is that ostriches normally swallow their food whole, so in order to break the food down in their stomach, they rely on gastroliths. These are tiny little pebbles that some animals swallow to help smush their food up. In the city, if it couldn't find any suitable rocks, maybe it improvised. Or maybe it just got a little peckish. Doggy dentures. Did you know you can't wiggle your tongue while smiling? Go on, give it a try. Gotcha. Oh, you should show that to your grandma. But do you know whose big pearly grin ain't as cute as yours? Check this out. Nope, that's not a filter. This jackapoo called Milo managed to get into the bedside drawers of his owner Stacy Owens' mother and decided to try out her mother's old dentures. In the video, the 8-month-old pup can be seen running around with a big, toothy human smile. Now, it sure is cute, but this is how my sleep paralysis demon watches me at 2 a.m. Milo isn't the only one after new masticators. This adorable pooch is Maggie, and when her owner's dad went for a nap, he popped out his mouthpiece as they'd been irritating him. When he woke up, however, his false teeth were gone. It doesn't take a genius to figure out where. Step up, Maggie. Zooks! Looks like my great aunt Petunia. Believe me, she could have peeled a watermelon with those gnashers. Junk in the trunk. No land creature is bigger than the African elephant, so as you can imagine, they need to eat a lot. These big boys aren't skipping meals, but one African elephant called Jumbo was found to have consumed all kinds of bizarre trinkets. All the way back in the 1880s, Jumbo was one of the star attractions at American showman P.T. Barnum's circus, mostly because he was 13 feet tall. Sadly, Jumbo's time in the spotlight was short-lived. While being led across a train track after a performance one night, a train took the entourage by surprise and fatally collided with the elephant. Oof. But what they found inside Jumbo's stomach was perhaps the most shocking. Coins, stones, lead, glass, screws, rivets, pieces of wire, and a police whistle. Man, Jumbo be snitching. Oh, there was also someone's keys in there. If I had to sift through Elephant Dookie just to unlock my house, sorry, but I'm selling that house. Sadly, what all these items reveal is that whilst Jumbo was well loved by many circus goers, he probably wasn't well loved and looked after by his carers. How all that garbage got in his stomach, I've got no idea. But I do know that's not the good kind of junk in the trunk. I do. Everyone's always asking me, yo, be amazed. How come your content's always so darn good? It's because I got that dog in me. That's why. But have you ever wondered what's in the dog? Well, Pepper, a pooch from Pretoria in South Africa, had something rather precious inside him. His owner was shocked after she'd left her engagement ring on the coffee table, left the room, then came back to find it gone. Surely the dog hadn't gobbled it up, right? Well, she wasn't sure, so she whisked Pepper to the local vets where they performed a radiograph and, hey, presto, there it was. The shiny ring really was inside Pepper. Because the ring was still in Pepper's stomach, the veterinarians gave him a small dose of apomorphine, which makes dogs vomit. And after a couple of minutes, the ring, and quite a bit more, erupted back into sight. Yuck. I sure hope the ring wearer gave it a good clean before putting it back on. Toad in the punch bowl. Yeah, rummaging around in dog barf isn't my idea of a good time. But scientists working in Ecuador in 2016 found something spectacular in frog barf. They were on an expedition searching for a little devil poison frog, and once they found one, they began gently pumping its stomach full of water. What? Because these frogs are poisonous, their diet is of particular interest to scientists. Many of the protective alkaloids on the frog's skin come from the food it eats, and their diet is up to 86% ants. By pumping the frogs with water, they spew out whatever they've recently eaten and can give us some valuable data. But one of the ants this poor little frog puked up was of particular interest. That's because scientists had never seen it before. Whoa! At a little under 0.2 inches, the Linomyrmex holdoblari is currently the only known specimen ever discovered. How amazing is that? Whilst forcing a tiny frog to reproduce his lunch sounds a little questionable, it could be a great way for scientists to discover new species. After all, small animals like frogs are far more adept at spotting even smaller critters like ants than our big old human buddies are. What do you think? Let me know down in those comments. Shell snacker. Mama always said, chew your food, but I'm a voracious eater. I've been glugging back whole weenies since before you could tie your shoelaces. One fish living in Göttinger-Kiessee in Saxony, Germany, though, met an untimely end because its eyes were much bigger than its belly. Boaters on the lake spotted a curious-looking pair of legs poking out the surface of the water. When they hauled the lifeless limbs out on the shore, you won't believe what they were attached to. Check it out. This is a Wells catfish, and those legs poking out belong to a turtle. Yep, this greedy gulper tried swallowing the shelled fellow whole. Despite the best efforts of the boaters, sadly, neither animal made it. Aw. But these catfish are notorious for their predatory instincts. In 2001, a catfish near Mönchengladbach became something of a celebrity for terrorizing local dog walkers. Kuno, as it became known, reportedly leapt ashore and ate a Dachshund puppy before slinking back into the murky depths. Holy smokes, that poor puppy! As for what happened to Kuno, well, we don't know. Fishermen tried to capture the rampant river beast, but they had no luck. One man claims Kuno washed ashore in 2003, however, the fish he found was only 5 foot long, and eyewitness accounts claim Kuno was much, much larger. Who knows, maybe Kuno is still out there, lurking near the water's edge, waiting patiently for its next prey. Glow snake. My friends know me as the bright ideas guy. Anytime they need someone to whip up something clever, I'm their go-to man. But in Gainesville, Florida, a 4-foot pine snake proved itself not the brightest spark, despite being found with 2 15-watt light bulbs inside it. Now, this is actually a bull snake that swallowed golf balls, but there aren't any photos of our bulby boy, so take it as a fairly accurate visual representation. Anyway, the 2 bulbs had been used in a nearby chicken coop, and when they'd failed, the owner simply chucked them out into the yard. So when this slithering savant came along, it must have had a light bulb moment and gobbled them up, thinking they were delicious eggs. Miraculously, nothing smashed, and skilled surgeons were able to retrieve the bulbs through a tiny incision. All in all, the whole procedure took roughly 45 minutes. After 3 weeks recovery time, the snake was ready to go back into the wild. But I bet he'll be thinking twice before having any more bright ideas. But no? Okay. Tough crowd. The Last Supper. Man, all this talking with my beautiful sultry voice really works up an appetite. I could eat an entire cow. Okay, maybe not. That's a lot of beef in one go, even for my greedy guts. If only one piggish python in Phitsanulok, Thailand had second-guessed themselves like I did, when this 15-foot monster managed to catch a young cow, it must have thought it was in for the best meal of its life. Except when the farmer who owned the cow came looking for it 3 days later, he found the snake in a very sorry food coma. See, the bovine beast was so big that after swallowing it whole, the python took days to digest it, in which time it started to decompose. Ew. This produced gases that made it swell within the snake's stomach, stretching it out more and more until it literally burst. Ugh, that's a nasty way to go. But wait, there's an even more stomach-churning shocker. A cyclist in South Africa spotted this swollen serpent on the trail at Lake Eland Game Reserve. After snapping a few photos, he went on his merry way. But when park staff spotted the photo, they wanted to check on the snake itself. Pythons swallowing massive meals is no big deal. They can alter their metabolism and the size of their organs to accommodate a giant gorge. But that wasn't what the rangers were worried about. This snake could have eaten anything from an impala to a small person. Yikes. Turns out it was something much pricklier, a porcupine. Youch. And if you think that must have hurt going in, imagine how it felt coming out. Well, this poor python never found out. This spiny supper was the last dinner he ever had. Beep. Personally, I'd have gone for In-N-Out, but you do you, buddy. And just like that, we've reached the end of the video. Anyone else's tummy feeling a little strange? Which of those discoveries surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.